Greetings, I'm Elizabeth Coble. For this week's video reflecting on George Marsden's The Outrageous Idea of Christian Scholarship, I focused on the idea of academia ignoring religion as part of its far pendulum swing for the separation of church and state. This seems like a theme, albeit hopefully not too simplified, in many of our readings, including Marsden. So what does the separation of church and state really mean? The term does not appear in our Constitution, but the concept is part of the First Amendment. Quote, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, unquote. Known as the Establishment Clause, it prohibits the government from creating an official religion or favoring one religion or non-religion over another. For our nation's first 150 years, there was little debate over the meaning of this clause. As we became more diverse, challenges arose. It was not until after World War II that the Supreme Court interpreted the meaning of the Establishment Clause. Two cases related to education are included as examples. In Iverson versus Board of Education in 1947, the Supreme Court held that the Establishment Clause is one of the liberties protected by the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment, making it applicable to state laws and local ordinances. In Lemon versus Kurtzman from 1971, the Supreme Court established a three-part test to determine violations of the First Amendment Establishment Clause. In 1997, the Supreme Court modified the three-part Lemon test in Agnostini versus Felton by combining two of the parts, leaving a purpose part and a modified effects part. But have we gone too far? The idea of separation of church and state ensures the government cannot exercise undue influence over Americans' spiritual or religious lives. From ending school-mandated prayer to banning the government from coercing Americans to participate in religious activities, the wall of separation has been an essential tool in building a freer democracy in our country. But while the Establishment Clause separates church from state, it does not separate religion from politics or public life. People are free to bring their convictions forward because the government must treat all equally. For example, politicians are free to express their religious beliefs, but not to sponsor legislation based solely on religious convictions. If this holds true for politicians, why not also for academics? Why can't instructors express their religious beliefs? By keeping religion out of the mainstream academic world, we ignore thousands of years of history and ignore that each human is shaped by things around him or her. This made me think about one of our readings from last week, David Sacks and Peter Thiel's 1995 article, How the West Was Lost at Stanford. In that article, students and faculty at Stanford University successfully rallied to have the required Western civilization class thrown out and replaced by a new one called Cultures, Ideas, and Values. Part of the student rallying cry included, down with racism, down with Western culture, up with diversity. In Chapter 6 of Building Academic Communities, Marsden included, quote, during the first half of the century, however, those progressive Protestants who set the standards for higher education typically assumed that there was no need for special religious identification because American cultural ideas and their broad religious ideals would coincide, unquote. The United States was built from those baseline traditions, Western civilization and Christianity. Instead of excluding them, they should be included. There is the same right, if not more, to include them as race and gender and Eastern traditions and military history and other subsets of our diverse culture. It takes them all to build the whole of our nation.